Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Bruce from brucedarlingtonguitar.com or any of the other websites that you can find me doing tuition and different things on. And I'm back with another review. So this time it's another guitar, and it's a guitar that I haven't been using for a little while, not for any particular reason, I just haven't been playing it. And this is a review based on the back of all the really kind comments I've had to the other reviews. So this is complete blasphemy as a review. It's a review of the Yngwie Malmsteen Fender Signature guitar, and it has absolutely no shredding in it whatsoever. Now, I'm just going to clarify, that doesn't mean that I can't play the thing. It just means that I don't really see the point in going, hey, here's how a guitar sounds, blah, 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 and doing a load of stuff on YouTube. And a small other thing as well is I had a weird comment off somebody who, I can't tell if they were doing it in a sarcastic way or in a normal way, but I had a comment that said, "You have a PhD in music?" So yes, I do. I have a doctorate in music from the University of Chester. If you feel like checking it out, it's online. It's a completely riveting read if you cannot sleep. If you struggle to get off at night, grab a chapter of that and it'll put you flat out. But yeah, if it was a kind of sarcastic comment about, I don't know. Anyway, on to the review. So Dr. Bruce doing the review, if you want to be like that about it. I bought this guitar when I was in Osaka in Japan. I was traveling around with a friend who I will leave out so he doesn't get inundated with the millions and millions of fans of mine chasing him down. But I was traveling around, and I always go in guitar shops. So you know what we're like as guitar players. We go anywhere we go into these guitar shops, and we think we're going to find the deal of the century. It's going to be Jimmy's guitar sat at the back of the guitar shop. The guy doesn't know what he's got. You'll buy it for equivalent of £50 or whatever the local currency is, and that's it. Woohoo, you found the Holy Grail. Well, I kind of did. Traveling around Osaka, which is amazing. If you get to go to Japan, it's phenomenal. Don't be fooled, it's not really Japan. It's just a backdrop that I bought because I was sick of seeing the yellow wall, and with lockdown I'm doing all the work here, obviously. I went into a guitar shop and they're full of Ibanez. For some reason, Japan is full of Jackson, ESP, Ibanez, all the shreddy guitars over there. So not a huge amount of Fenders. I hadn't seen many, never seen a Gretsch, or something like that. But tons of the shreddy kind of big neck guitars. I went into this shop and I went into the back. I was having a look around and they had this. It was just hanging up on the back wall. No kind of spotlight on it. Didn't have a thing saying what it was. And I just looked at it and thought, oh, it's a big headstock Fender. That looks pretty cool. It's a nice balm for the soul after seeing endless amounts of pointy guitars. And I went up and had a look at it, and I saw the frets and thought, oh God, it's a Malmsteen guitar. Now, I was actually really lucky when I was younger. I managed to have a couple of sessions with Yngwie, and I remember his guitar at the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not making a big deal of that. Yngwie does not phone me on a regular basis for advice and say, hey Bruce, how's things going? Nothing like that. It's just a couple of random things that someone might have set up for me, but it made an impression because the guy's amazing and a very, very nice guy. So a lot of the stories about him being arrogant and that kind of stuff, I didn't find that the case. Maybe it's because I wasn't arrogant with him and didn't challenge him, because my guitar playing does not challenge him. But I remember the guitar and I always thought it was a gimmick. I always thought scallop frets, why bother? Okay, lute players did it way back when, but do we really need it as guitar players now? What's the point? It's just to sell guitars. So I got this one off the wall and I had a bit of a play on it. And I hadn't played for probably 3 weeks or so, because traveling around and backpacking and stuff, you don't really drag a guitar with you. You tend to pick them up wherever you go. And so I picked it up with lousy technique, no pick, no nothing. Played a little bit on it and completely fell in love with the neck. Now, the neck profile is, I think, a 70s neck profile. And it's just thick enough without being too thick. It's nowhere near really thin. If you look at it from the side, you can see it's actually got a bit of heft to it. And I like that. You can get your hand around it. It's not super thin. You're going to break it, shred machine. But the fret, the scalloped fretboard, I will lift this in and see if I can get it closer without knocking the mic all over the place. If you can see, there you go. So the frets on this are scalloped. Now, they're not as scalloped as his newer models. Apparently the new Fender models are seriously scalloped and there's hardly any wood left underneath it. These are scalloped and you can get about slightly over a semitone if you push down right into it. And you know, the intonation can really go out, which I'll come back to in a bit. But I fell in love with the neck, and the reason I fell in love with it is not because I instantly had complete mastery of the Phrygian dominant scale or diminished arpeggios shooting up and down the neck. My speed picking technique did not instantly become as good as Yngwie's. What did happen was my vibrato really came out on this guitar, and bending on this is just a joy. It's absolutely amazing, and I think it's because you're not getting any of that scrapey feeling you can get with the frets and the fretboard on some guitars. So that's kind of why I bought it. Now, the bargain of the century bit is this guitar with the Fender tweed case. And I should point out, this was immaculate when I bought it. The dings and things are from me gigging it, which is, you know, as your guitar should have. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of gigs with this guitar all around the world, and it's travelled with me very, very well. But I bought this guitar with the Fender tweed case in local currency, obviously in yen, so 85 quadrillion yen, but for about £350. I know. Now that's absolutely incredible. I should point out it's not the American version, it is the Japanese made version of the Fender Strat, of the Malmsteen signature. Now, I find a little weird some of the prejudices that happen with guitar making. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy anything else made in America, pretty much. I wouldn't buy a car made in America. The computer I'm recording this on is an Apple. That's not made in America. My phone is Google. That's not made in America. The mic is not made in Europe. Nothing else is made in America. I don't see... I'm not knocking American manufacturing. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure they do just as good a job as everywhere else. What I don't understand is this obsession with, if it's not made in America, it's not good. This is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. The quality of the finish on the frets, the way that they're set into the fretboard, the way the neck is joined to the body, the wiring, the hardware, everything. Every single thing is absolutely incredible on it. So if you get a chance to pick one of these up, brand new, they are cheaper than the American equivalent, and you should definitely go for it. If you've ever thought about it, and you don't want to spend the, whatever, £3,000 the USA Custom Shop one is, this is the Japanese version of the Custom Shop, and it's really very, very, very good. So let's talk about what's in it. When I got it, it had the stacked DiMarzios in it, which are awful. Yeah, they're absolutely horrific. Now, if all you do is plug it into a wall of Marshalls and turn up to 10, any pickup's going to sound like any pickup, really. If you want to get any sound out of it, then you need to really tone out of it. You need to change the pickups. So I changed these, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with. I like changing pickups. These pickups make me very sad these days. These are Dave Allen Voodoo Blues pickups, and again, they are incredible. My guitar tech, who I've mentioned in previous videos, a guy named Doug Abram, if you look him up, he's ace as well as a guitar tech and as a player, good songwriter. He put these in and actually said to me these are the best sounding pickups he's ever put in a Strat. Now, these were bought years ago, so probably 10 years ago, and it's when they were still being hand wound by the guy in his little workshop and sent out to you. You had to wait ages to get any. I bought some recently for the Steinberger, which if you watch the other reviews, you'll see that I was putting new pickups in that, and I found out that actually they're not made in the same way anymore. And when I got them here, I'd ordered a set from a Chinese factory as well, and they were identical. And I'm not saying, I'm not kind of besmirching the Dave Allen business at all. I didn't put them in, so I didn't check how they sounded. But when I saw that they were completely identical with the Chinese ones, which were a fraction of the price, I thought to myself, well, I'll keep these. It's only a Steinberger. I'm not trying to make the world's ultimate guitar. So I'll put those in. But these, when I had them, if you can find a set of the Dave Allen Voodoo Blues, oh wow, they're ace. Everything's vintage on them, the wiring that came with them, the whole business, everything is just fantastic. So when you play this guitar, what you have is a vintage bridge, which is a little sharp actually. So where the strings go over the top, over the saddles, and then go into the body, because obviously it's a through body design, have to have the back off like Yngwie, you know, clearly, because that makes you play like Yngwie as well. Where the strings go over, they're actually quite sharp with the height adjustments. But it's one of those things, it's part of the guitar, you know, it's supposed to be a design of an old guitar. 5-way switch is a 5-way switch. If you know what a 5-way switch does, it does what a 5-way switch does. It had the brass nut on it. Now you can see that's clearly not a brass nut. I changed that out, and the reason I changed it out is I just didn't like the sound of the brass nut. I couldn't get on with it at all. With the Damasios that were in it and the brass nut, it had that Yngwie sound, and that's great. I don't want that Yngwie sound because Yngwie already exists. There's absolutely no point in me trying to sell myself as a guitar player who sounds exactly like Yngwie. There's just no reason behind it. The tuning pegs are not locking tuning pegs. Again, they're vintage. Everything is very vintage. They've got the Fender thing on the back. The way the neck is bolted onto the back of the body, it's just, everything's vintage. There's no kind of modern stuff. There's no messing around on this. This is probably the purest guitar that I have. And as I said, it's phenomenal. Now, this guitar has a really interesting story. All my guitars have names. This guitar is named Dr.Cox. And the reason this guitar is named Dr.Cox is because I'm a huge fan of Scrubs. And when I got back from Japan, the flight is quite lengthy, to say the least, from Tokyo to Manchester Airport, where I flew into. And a friend picked me up and basically put me in a bucket and brought me home. And I had this with me. I came through customs saying, oh yeah, member of Musicians Union, I've been doing stuff in Japan, all fine. And that night I had a gig. And so I took this guitar. I thought, yeah, brilliant, I'll take this guitar and play it. Wow. The reason it's called Dr.Cox is because what it does is punish you. It absolutely punishes you for any issues with your technique. Okay, now let me explain that, and if it seems like I'm going off the review a little bit, I'm not. It's really relevant. So when you play slightly bigger chords, say you're playing 13th chords, or sharp nines, flat nines, all that kind of stuff, even standard bar chords, what we tend to do with the normal guitar, where you're pressing into the wood of the fretboard, is you really push in. And we say to beginners, don't push too hard, you need to relax your hand. But what we never work on when we develop is getting even finger pressure. So we'll tend to push harder, even if we're very relaxed and we've got good technique, we'll tend to push harder with stronger fingers, and that's only kind of logical. So if you're playing something that has all 4 fingers on, like that, I'm probably going to be pressing harder with my first and second finger than I am with my third and my little finger. Now what happens then is, because of the scallop fretboard, your intonation is radically out of tune. I mean, just horrendously, comically out of tune. So if you're thinking about picking one of these up, take some time to get used to it. Now, after that night, I then put this kind of in my practice room and had 2 or 3 months where I just played this guitar for my practice, and that was to get used to it. And as soon as I'd done that, then it was brilliant. Then it was fantastic. So Dr. Cox no longer punished me because I was actually doing my job properly, which I thought was very appropriate for the Scrubs reference, which I'm a big fan of. Now, I've played all kinds of genres of music with this. I've played very heavy, kind of Rammstein-y type stuff where I've down-tuned it. I've played jazz, blues, country, straight-ahead rock. With these pickups in, this body, it's just the Alder body. There's nothing particularly exciting about it, but it's got great resonance. The neck is the maple neck that works with it. Everything is just fantastic. Everything works as a unit, and this guitar will do anything that you want it to do. The only thing it won't really do is kind of extended range gent stuff or whatever, but that needs specialist equipment for that. It's a very certain type of thing. If you're playing virtually any style of what you'd call mainstreamy music, even right the way to stuff like Slayer or something like that, which is not really so mainstream, this will do it. And that's why it was my main gigging guitar. It's also tough as anything. So you've seen the PRS that I did, the single cut. Beautiful guitar, you know, gorgeous looking guitar. And PRSs in general, those types of guitars, some of the Sir guitars, all of these ones with the fancy tops and everything like that, oh man, you're afraid of dropping them. It's like having the new iPhone 12 Pro Max Ultimate whatever thing, that's dating the video, isn't it? If you drop it, it's the end of your life. And it's the same with those guitars. Now this guitar has some really nice dinks and things. I mean, there's one in particular around the side. There are other ones around here. There are ones at the headstock. Because, you know, you're warming up on stage and someone says something, you go, what? And turn and bang it into the amp. Or your strap breaks, or, you know, it's in a case, but someone opens the case and then drops something on it. This guitar is a tank. None of that stuff has ever damaged it to the point that it didn't work on the night. The tuning is rock solid. For a non-locking system, now don't use the trem. It does have a trem arm on it. I don't use the trem, so it's just balanced on the back. I've not blocked it off, I've not locked it or anything like that, but it's just balanced. I don't tend to do trem dives and things like that. It's been a long week. I don't tend to do trem dives and stuff like that when I'm doing normal gigs, because there's really no types of gigs you get hired for where that's massively appropriate in the pro playing world. But all the other stuff I could do on it, tapping, vibrato, fast picking, heavy playing, all of that stuff, bending, really getting into the bends, really digging in, that heavy blues kind of feel. It's just great. It will stay in tune all day long. So if you find yourself meandering around Osaka and you see a second-hand music shop, you should definitely go in, because the holy grail of guitars may well be hiding out at the back covered in dust. So this is Bruce from BruceDarlingtonGuitar.com. I hope you've enjoyed this review as much as the others, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.